Good afternoon, everybody. I am CommerceNext co-founder Veronika Sonsev. Thank you so much for joining us today. For any new participants, CommerceNext is a community event series and conference for marketing, e-commerce, and technology leaders at retail and direct-to-consumer brands. And on behalf of my fellow co-founders, Scott Silverman and Alan Dick, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Our topic is maximize sales and loyalty through seamless omni-channel experiences. Omni-channel services have grown in popularity since the pandemic. According to McKinsey, 60 to 70% of consumers research and shop both stores and online. And over 1/3 of Americans have made buying online and picking up in store or curbside part of their regular shopping routines. So today we're going to look at how to create a seamless omni-channel experience for customers. It's also a topic that we'll be covering at the CommerceNext Growth Show in June, as we've expanded our focus to include the intersection of physical and digital retail. So today we'll cover all things omni-channel, from BOPIS to curbside to endless aisles. But before we dig in, I want to walk through a few thank yous and announcements. So first of all, I want to thank Fabric, our webinar sponsor. It has been a pleasure to partner with Fabric on this webinar. I also want to thank our speakers, Mandeep, Bhatia, VP of Global Digital Product and Omnichannel Innovation at Tapestry, Angela Gruszka, SVP of Digital Marketing and E-commerce at AERIN, Deb Radcliff, Global Chief Marketing Officer at 511, and Jay Topper, Head of Innovation and Strategy at Fabric. I also want to thank our team members, Maeve, Robert, Scott, and Alan, who've all behind the scenes here to make the webinar a success. And of course, I want to thank you, the audience, for tuning in live and joining us today. So our next webinar is actually in 3 weeks. It's on Wednesday, March 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time. The topic is leveling up personalization in 2024, and it features Napa Auto Parts, Tailored Brands, TeePublic, and AB Tasty. To register for the webinar, we've put a link in the chat. You can also go to commercenext.com to learn more. I want to encourage everyone on this call to register for the CommerceNext Growth Show. It's taking place in New York City on June 11th and 13th. We have an amazing lineup of speakers this year, including Patagonia, On, Tapestry, J. Crew, Ipsy, Estee Lauder, and so many more. It's going to be a really great event. If you're interested in joining, we've added that registration link into the chat again, or you can go to commercenext.com to learn more. Now, if you missed any of our past sessions or you want to brush up on any topic that we've covered in the past, our YouTube channel has a wealth of information. Just go to youtube.com/CommerceNext, and you can see all of our videos available for replay. And then, of course, speaking of videos, and especially if you liked our webinar last week, we have some additional video content. It's a bonus on-demand webinar on CTV content creation tactics, and it's with Redcon One's CMO, Ryan Monahan. Ryan also provided an exclusive connected TV content engine handout in the recording for some quick and impactful content creation strategies. So if you're interested in exploring connected TV, want to learn more about how to make your connected TV content better, this is a must-see, and we've added a link to the chat. Now, I'm going to walk through a few housekeeping items. For those of you who've been here, you already know we do record this webinar. We usually make it available by the next day. So if you missed anything, don't worry. You'll be able to watch the replay starting tomorrow. I'm going to quickly walk you through where everything is on the screen, and then we'll go into the presentation. So the main panel for interactivity is actually on the right. You'll see there chat, Q&A, polls, and handouts. Now, chat is where you tell us where you're calling in from. Hint, hint, hint. We love to know where you're dialing in from and keep you engaged. You can interact with other audience members. You can give shout outs to the speakers. But if you have a question, we really encourage you to use the Q&A tab. And that's because the Q&A tab has some additional functionality. In the Q&A tab, we can actually upvote the questions so we can see which questions are most important to the audience and make sure we ask them to our speakers. Now, later in the webinar, we'll have some polls where we actually ask you questions. And the actual poll will come up live on your screen as a pop-up, but if you want to see the final results, that's in the polls tab. And then finally, in the handouts tab, in that section, you'll be able to download the slides from today, as well as the handout from Fabric on how to choose the right order management system. And of course, for anyone who's watching the replay, you can find that handout in the bottom of your player. So today's agenda, we start with a presentation by Fabric on how to maximize sales and loyalty through seamless omni-channel experiences. Then, of course, we have our audience polls, and then our panel discussion with Tapestry, 511, AERIN, and Fabric. So now it is with great pleasure that I turn the stage over to Jay Topper, Head of Innovation Strategy at Fabric. Welcome, Jay.
And thank you for all our prep calls. And thanks also to Deb, Mandeep, and Angela for joining me on the panel. And a special shout out to Rajiv, who helped me put this deck together over the last couple of weeks. For a little context, this is week 2 for me at Fabric. Last week was at eTail. And this week I'm actually in the Grand Canyon with my wife. So I really while I started full-time beginning of last week, I really start full-time on Monday without any distractions. In fact, the picture on this title slide is a selfie I took in my house. I have a chart behind my wall in my kitchen area, and it's the best I could do on short notice. I'm going to go a little bit into my background first, because while I am working for a e-commerce and OMS SaaS provider now, one I've come to know really well over the years, I'm a career retailer. I started my career in the United States military. I'm a veteran of both the United States Army and the United States Coast Guard. And my last 5 jobs, just really briefly, I was with Shock for 4 years. They're an advertising agency and pre-press company out of Chicago, Illinois, or they were out of Chicago, Illinois. And I really got into sharing OMS type information through digital asset management sharing in the early days of developing applications that could be shared over the internet and regardless of what type of device or operating system you were on. I went to Rosetta Stone. I was the first CIO there, and I ended up my last couple of years managing the post-sale consumer and all the coaches and the language learning inside of the application and through our IPO. From there, I went to Vitacost, which is a healthy living food and dog food and cruelty-free makeup and vitamin and supplement company. We were bought by Kroger, so I spent a couple of years at Kroger and Vitacost. From there, I went to FTD. My first 2 years there, I was CIO and CTO. And my last 2 years, I took over all DTC responsibilities when we went into duress and out of duress. And we were, the floral businesses were bought by Nexus Capital. And I owned all the DTC functions there and also went through a significant replatform. And then most recently, I was at Chico's FAS, which was a fantastic job. With a fantastic board and just fantastic people. We were a publicly traded company until early January when we were bought by Sycamore Partners, and I, along with the other C-levels there, departed the company the day of acquisition. And that brings me around to Fabric. So when I was at Chico's, I went on a journey with Fabric early on around their OMS. I've always looked at order management as strategic. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the deck. And in addition to their e-commerce platform, we went off of an old legacy ATG platform. And in about 18 months for the OMS and 12 months for the rest of the platform, we relaunched one of our 3 brands onto the new platform, and it was wildly successful. I got to know their product team really well, their engineering team really well. And as an extension of my own, with a great SI, Bounteous, that also assisted. And so when I left Chico's, it just seemed like a natural fit to go work for a company I was already super intimate with. Seamless omni-channel experiences, why are they important? Sometimes I look at omni-channel as a little bit of a legacy word that stores introduced when they were introducing digital channels. I also like the word connected commerce here. But regardless, is at the end of the day, a customer has certain expectations and they're bouncing between this physical and digital. And it's not just stores, it's catalogs, versus social acquisition channels. It's phone calls versus chat to customer service. There's just this myriad of impressions and contacts that you have with the consumer. And at the end of the day, that if you could give that consumer a magic carpet ride as they bounce in and out between these different channels, you're much higher to stimulate loyalty. And we'll talk about where some of these problems can occur if you don't have that in a moment. And to me, it all starts with the brand. So a lot of people start with things like fulfillment and inventory, but at the end of the day, with all of these touch points that you have, millions and millions, and in some cases, billions of touch points, is realizing in a very personalized fashion, whatever your brand promise is, or whatever the retailer's brand promise is throughout the entire ecosystem, is what helps create enduring customer relationships. If you start to have different pricing, different messaging, different photography across all these different impressions and touch points, you can start to lose the customer. And in a digital world, especially, if you lose the customer, you're just one click away from them going somewhere else. So really, to me, this is all about the brand and bringing that brand to life and being super consistent with that brand promise across all these different channels. If you want to break that down a little bit more, we can look at it into three main buckets. The first bucket is marketing, and that's really where a customer has the first exposure to a brand. That could be anything from a billboard to a TV commercial to a Facebook ad to a paid search, SEO, whatever that happens to be. The consumer is exposed to your brand, and sometimes re-exposed to your brand again and again and again. It can be a catalog across all these different channels, having that consistent brand message. The main goal of marketing, whether it's brand marketing or performance marketing, is to stimulate enough interest to enter into the store. And then you move into the store, and you have many different types of stores, as everybody knows on this call. You have physical stores, you have your e-commerce sites, and clienteling and virtual selling is starting to make a lot of inroads in the consumer journey now, where you have a personal shopper that's assisting on a one-to-many basis, many clients, where you want to make that sale at the point of intent. The goal of the store, I could argue, is to complete the order, and that's a successful store. So you have marketing's job is to stimulate more and more qualified traffic, whether that's new or existing customers. The store's job is to convert that traffic and to have people add more and more to their basket. So traffic, and then you have AOV and conversion. And that then leads to the order. And in a lot of companies, the strategic aspect of omni-channel stops at the order, where you have carts and you have pricing and you have product and product descriptions, and there's an intense amount of focus put on those commerce experiences. But for us, looking at that order when you first make that relationship with the customer is really where the work begins. And if you go to the next slide, if I go to the next slide, this is where this is from the customer's view. So the customer has been exposed to product and price and brand in some fashion. The more personalized that experience has been, the better. Certainly when I worked for Chico's, when you walked into a boutique, and I know 511 and Tapestry have similar personalized experiences. When you walk in there, it's a very boutique experience. They know who you are often, and they cater to what you are looking for, trying to bring that exact same experience online to stimulate that customer's interest. It's always humbling to me when a customer puts their credit card information in, either on the store, online store, or inside of a brick and mortar store, and they've actually made that commitment to purchase, and they've given you their information. They've made a commitment to create a relationship with you. And at that point, when they've crafted that order, that's where the work begins. And now it's the responsibility of the brand to fulfill that order and fulfill all the post-order activity in a manner that meets or exceeds the customer expectations. And this has to do with things like where the product is going to be shipped from, where it's going to be shipped to, and then all the different aspects of support after the order. Slide problem. So looking at the order from the enterprise standpoint, there's an incredible amount of activities that take place from the order. So people talk about inventory masters a lot, and they talk about customer masters a lot. You have a master customer database, you have a master inventory database. There needs to be a transactional master of the order as well, because there are so many activities that take place with the order. First of all, right out of the bat, you have people that want to change their order and being able to seamlessly interact with that order up to some period of time to be able to change the order. You have customers that want to get pricing that a lot of times you can go into a store, or if pricing changes within 30 days, you can get a refund of price. If something goes on sale a week after you buy it, you can get a refund of that. That all comes from the order. You have inventory management, which in an omni-channel experience is huge. So we had over 1,000 stores at Chico's, and we had our online store. When we looked at inventory, it was looking at it in a virtual sense. If something wasn't available in the distribution center, then we immediately needed to look out across the stores, and all different algorithms. Then at what point do we fulfill from a store? Do we fulfill the entire order from a store, or do we split it up and send it to two different orders? Do we pick the store that's closest to the consumer, or do we pick the store that can fulfill all the different aspects and products within that order? So a lot of different algorithms and complications of whether you're shipping it from a store or you're shipping it from a DC. Then you have the pickup components. You can ship it directly to the consumer. You can ship it to the store or have it ready in the store for buy online and pickup, or you can do curbside delivery from the store, which of course popped up more significantly during COVID. You have the returns process, which again can be very different when you take an online product and you walk into a store, or you buy something in a store and you either can't get back to the store, or you just want the simplicity of returning it via US mail, UPS, or FedEx. Again, that's all wrapped around the order. And then lastly, you have customer support, where the customer service agents are now interacting with that order, whether it's an in-store order or an online order, to be able to serve that customer and giving them a 360-degree view of what the customer bought, when they bought it, how it was delivered, and how they're communicating with that customer. Sometimes they do it via chat, sometimes via email, sometimes via AI, and sometimes via phone. So all of this has the order at the center of the ecosystem. If you can have this be completely seamless, not just for the consumer, but inside the enterprise, you get out of stocks that go down, conversion ends up going up, returns can go down. You can have Wizmo calls, whereas my order calls go down. Average handling time in the customer service center can go down. The result of all those activities are that the customer has a better experience regardless of what channel they pick, and therefore they have a higher likelihood to come back down through the ecosystem all over again. So Fabric has an OMS, and I am introducing Fabric's OMS, even though they've introduced it before. And for us, OMS is strategic. And whether that OMS is a standalone with another e-commerce platform, or the OMS is within Fabric's e-commerce platform, because we have an e-commerce platform as well, it's pulling that as a modular service to support the omni-channel enterprise, both the store orders and the digital orders. And it's modular. The word people use composable, they use mock, they use microservices, but really what it is a modular service that is easily integratable with all the different touch points that surround that order, which some people don't use an order management system, or they use an order management system light, or they're using an order management system within their ERP, or in a big enterprise piece of software, which can be hard to make super rapid changes. we look at the order management system as having all these different features and functions now, but we don't even know what those features and functions are going to be next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, as connected commerce becomes more and more of an expectation. So it's really built to be exportable and scalable, where you can connect this to anything, you can move things around it, you can test and learn from it, all keeping that data in one central repository for that 360-degree view across Omnichannel. It is easily integratable. I know this for a fact. Our order management in all my different retail experience I've had out with the cart, those two different modules or services have by far the most integration points. And so having something there that's easily integratable, where you can make changes on it in sometimes hours or days instead of weeks or months, where technology isn't the long pole to make those changes, becomes more and more critical. Having accurate inventory across the entire ecosystem in near real-time fashion, so the next person that comes in and buys isn't impacted by a lag of inventory accuracy. This can, again, work with whether it's an e-commerce system that you already have or with Fabric's e-commerce system. The whole definition of this, it was built as a standalone service. And then lastly, a little on Fabric's story themselves. They were founded in 2020. I actually found them when I was going through a search. I did this last night. I sat down and I started to think over the last 20 years or so that I've put in over 50 new platforms of some type, and I've upgraded over 50 platforms. And if you, like everyone on this call knows, whether you're on the buy or the sell side, if you put 50 platforms in, new platforms, you probably looked at 250 platforms to get to those 50, and maybe even more. You might come down to a final 2 or 3 at the end, but you probably canvassed the marketplace and looked at 10 or 12 before you got down to that one. And we chose Fabrics because they saw OMS the way we saw OMS, and all the things we were trying to do around same-day delivery and BOPIS and customer service. It was months and months and months of development versus putting something in that we could just toggle a switch and do it super quickly. We are really well funded. The customer base is growing. A new CEO who I've come to know a lot over the last 6 months came from Salesforce Commerce Cloud and is super familiar with the space. I can't say enough about their product and engineering teams. And then their OMS launched. We launched that last August or so, and it's created 1 million orders and housed more than double that when you consider the omni-channel experience. And then at the very top of the dot there on the far right is my arrival. And that's it. That's kind of omni-channel retail through the lens of OMS from my view. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Veronika.
Awesome.
Veronika.
No, thank you so much. I thought it was great. It's a great way to kind of give an overview and set the tone for the whole panel conversation we'll have in a minute. But for now, I'm going to quickly go to polls, get the audience answering some of our questions, and then we'll go back to our panel discussion. So our first poll, I want to know, what is your biggest challenge in achieving a seamless omni-channel fulfillment? Is it real-time inventory visibility, coordinating logistics across channels, managing customer expectations, integrating technology platforms, coordinating cross-channel returns and exchanges, or something else? And if that's the case, please specify in the chat. Real-time inventory visibility, #1 challenge, 30%, then coordinating logistics, 26%, then integrating technology platforms, 22%. Really very interesting. The reason why I find that particularly interesting is when we asked this question last week to our connected TV audience, the biggest answer was integrating technology platforms. I don't know if Jay got into everyone's head and made them really conscious of inventory visibility, but it clearly seems to be a big challenge with this crew. So excellent. Our next question is, which omni-channel services do you offer customers today? And you can select more than one here. And I realize that this is not completely comprehensive, so pick as many as I've made available here. But A is buy online, pick up in store, which is our BOPIS. B is curbside pickup. C is ship from store. D is same day delivery, either direct or via Instacart or DoorDash or Uber. E is endless aisles, which is making online inventory visible through store associates. F is buy online, return in store, or Boris. Or if you're just starting out and you're still exploring what you want to do, none would be the right answer. So you haven't turned on omnichannel services yet. This is great. It looks like you guys do a lot of different things. So obviously, the largest one right now is buy online, pickup in store with 22%, followed by a tie between ship from store at 17 or 18% now, and buy online, return in store, also 18%. And then the others, I guess, same day delivery, this 11%. And none. A lot of people are just trying to learn and figure out how to turn on omnichannel. So this is really great. We can go ahead and close that. And then the final poll question is really related to our next webinar, which is on leveling up personalization on March 27th. So this webinar is going to be moderated by Scott Silverman, and the question we have is, how optimistic are you about your ability to improve your existing on-site personalization? And this is, really a scale running from very optimistic to very pessimistic. So A would be very optimistic, B is somewhat optimistic, C is neutral, D is somewhat pessimistic, and E is very pessimistic. This is a pretty optimistic crew. It looks like 26% of you are very optimistic, another 26% somewhat optimistic, 42% are neutral, and only 5% is pessimistic. So it seems like everyone feels like they can improve on their existing personalization. Wonderful. So with that, I would really like to bring the panel up and start our panel discussion. Hello, how are you guys? Oh, wait, we're missing, what happened to Jay? Did we lose him? Getting him back. All right, there he is. Wonderful. We're all here. Jay did a great job setting the context for this presentation, really giving us a sense of what are the core components of omnichannel and why it's important. I think just now that we kind of have the whole group on the stage, I'd love to have Mandeep, Angela, and Deb briefly introduce yourself and your role in your respective company, and then we'll talk about what you're doing from an omnichannel perspective. So we'll start with Mandeep, since he's right next to me on the virtual screen here.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mandeep. I am head of product and UX for Tapestry, House of Brands, Coach, Stewart, and Kate Spade.
Wonderful. Deb?
Hi, I'm Deb Radcliff with 511. We are a global brand that makes purpose-built gear for everyday consumers like hunters, hikers, campers, adventurers, as well as the professional community for law enforcement, military, and first responders.
And Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela Gruszka. I lead digital marketing and e-commerce at AERIN. AERIN is a luxury lifestyle brand led by Aaron Lauder, built around the premise that living beautifully should be effortless. Our assortment spans everything from home decor, tabletop lighting, fashion, and beauty.
Wonderful. Now, before we kind of dig into the nuts and bolts of omnichannel, just so that, and we were very intentional with this panel. So one of the things the audience will see is you have companies that here represented that have, a small number of stores, like in the case of AERIN, and companies that have a large number of stores, like in the case of Tapestry, and in between with 511. And that was intentional because we wanted you to have the perspective of people who are in different places on that omnichannel journey. So I'm going to start with you, Angela, and kind of go in the reverse order. If you could just talk about, from a high level, what are your omnichannel offerings at AERIN?
Sure. So our footprint is a bit smaller, as you had mentioned. So currently we have 2 stores, and we're about to open up a third in LA. It's going to be our first year-round store. So our current stores are located in Southampton and Palm Beach. So they're more of seasonal offerings. Currently today, the way that we're utilizing omnichannel, or I guess how we're executing it, is from more of, I would say, a manual perspective on the back end. From a customer experience perspective, it appears to be seamless and unified. So we're really here to meet the needs of our customer It's a luxury customer. They have very high expectations, and customer experience is everything to us. So the way that we're currently operating today is we're shipping from store. We've set up some workarounds. So when there are orders that do come in and we don't necessarily have inventory in the e-commerce location, we are able to route inventory from other locations to fulfill those orders for our end user.
Wonderful. Deb, how about 511? What omni-channel offerings do you have?
Absolutely. So we have a what, where, when, and how approach that we take, because it's really important, to make it as seamless and as frictionless as possible. And so we do that through, buy online, pick up in store, ship from store, Google Store, inventory listings, etc. We have 123 stores across the country in about 35 states. So it's really important for us to make sure that we have the inventory and we can get the product to the customer when and where they want. And one of the things that we're working on right now is endless aisle, which is a key priority. And that's the ability for our retail employees to look up products and actually order for the customer right then and there if the store product is not available.
Wonderful. Mandeep.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it is, right, like you have your customer journey, your pre-purchase, where before coming to the store, you might want to do some research, your purchase, making it truly omni, wherever, whenever, however you want it, and then post-purchase, which is what happens after you purchase. So in the pre-purchase space, we allow you to, similar to what Deb mentioned here, you can find our store online, then you can go online, you can look at the inventory about an item, you can even connect with a customer service agent. You can find out, you can talk to them about an inventory in a store. You can then order right then and there if you want. And we have this, which moves us into this purchase stage where, just continuing on that example, where you can just pay by link. So for example, you are trying to find out if you really like that bag, you want to buy it, you don't feel comfortable buying that bag and giving your credit card, we give you a link, you can pay by that. Then you can go online, and then you can, obviously do buy online, pick up in store. We also use our stores for fulfillment to get you faster delivery. And then you get into the post-purchase journey, where we allow you to do returns and exchanges both online as well as in store.
Awesome. Very comprehensive offering. That's great. And Jay, just because you were in that retail seat until so recently, do you want to talk about Chico's omni-channel experience, what Chico's had, and then I want to direct one of the audience questions specifically about fabric to you after that. But maybe just let's start off with Chico's first and what you offered from an omni-channel perspective, especially once you got your OMS in place.
Yeah, we had all of those capabilities, ship from store, buy online, pick up, returns. And like a lot of people, the front end was a lot cleaner than the back end was. Customer service is a great example, where the orders were in 2 different places and customer service had 6 or 7 different systems they needed to interact with. And once we standardized all of that, it was one screen, one customer service application to go in and look at the customer in a 360-degree view. So in a lot of cases, customers provide these services, but it's how simple it is on the back end to realize that, versus sometimes there's hacks. I'm a big fan of the hack, as a matter of fact, to put something in place that enables that customer experience, but it creates some tech debt that you have to go back and clean up. So fabric in a lot of cases is also, starting you off in a place without that tech debt.
Awesome. This is great. And I want to come back to you in just one second. I guess, between Deb, Mandeep, and Angela, you guys are in different places on your omni-channel journey. I guess looking back at what you've already accomplished, which is a lot, what were the biggest challenges in creating a seamless omni-channel experience, and how did you manage to overcome those challenges? And Deb, I'll start with you on this one.
I would say inventory management, really maintaining, an accurate inventory levels across both online and offline in our retail stores, really to prevent out of stocks or overstocking. And we're still kind of working through that, but that's been a really big challenge for us, and it still continues to be a challenge because we're still working through it. But because we do ship from store, we need to be able to have the retail inventory available online, because to the customer, it doesn't matter where it's coming from or where it's shipping from. And so we've done a pretty good job of making sure that when a product actually sells out, we have a notify me button that allows the customer to be notified should they want to purchase that item when it comes back in stock.
Got it. Very much, and Jay kind of mentioned the importance of that, so it ties right in. Mandeep, how about you? You've gone pretty far in your omni-channel journey at Tapestry. What were some of the challenges that you faced getting to where you are, and how did you overcome them?
And it's all of the above. I think none of these implementations, anyone who's in software, it's easy because it's people, process, and technologies. Because when your policies change, now you're giving customers more convenience, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the proper policies are followed. So, cross-functional alignment, and then obviously the tech for real-time inventory visibility becomes extremely important. Especially, you never want to disappoint any customers, especially when the demand is high. On those days, how do you account for those scenarios? Specific item gets hot, so how do you account for those things? So I would say it's all of the above, but it's alignment and then addressing these tech challenges.
Yeah, and I'm guessing part of that, and we'll talk about it as we get deeper into it, is like setting up the right rules. So you don't take inventory out of a store that is selling out of a product or nearly ready to sell out of a product when there's another store that maybe has more inventory. And all of those challenges are very much things to kind of think about. And then Angela, how about AERIN? What are some of the challenges that you've encountered in your journey, and how have you overcome them?
I think it's a balance between I think the technical integration and complexity and making these changes. So like Jay had mentioned, we're utilizing an OMS within ERP. So our architecture is a bit more complex. And I think we've built some really great workarounds. And I think from a customer perspective, whether the customer can transact on the item and then we can fulfill from in store, or like Deb said, we also have the in-stock soon functionality as well. So we can flip that switch on and off. But again, it's more of a manual intervention. I think long-term, what we would like would be for more automation in that flow and to have that multi-source inventory. So that's something that we're definitely working towards. But I think for right now, we're able to manage it, but it's definitely not scalable in the long term.
Yeah. And like all of these things, it's a journey. You take steps and then you keep improving on them as you can. Jay, there's a question for you. I apologize, I'm going to pronounce this name as best I can, from Sudhanshu Gupta. He asked, does Fabric have a separate PIM for keeping master/golden product record, or is PIM part of the OMS module?
Yeah, so it's definitely not part of the OMS module. So in a modular architecture, and one of the things for the last 2 or 3 tours of duty I've promoted heavily is this modular architecture that has some complexities with orchestration, but at the end of the day, it also makes it a lot easier to develop onto and to make changes. So almost by definition, I wouldn't put a PIM inside of an OMS. Now you might have an OMS beside it, and of course there's a catalog that acts as a PIM light within the e-commerce platform itself, but picking the best of breed of these was more of the mentality that we've been striving for. So it's not an enterprise PIM. Yes, you definitely need, especially as you scale, at some point you need that enterprise PIM, which interacts with your web catalog, it interacts with your store, it interacts with your merchants, it interacts with your e-commerce platform and everything else. But that is not embedded inside of the OMS or an OMS typically.
Great, awesome.
Can I make one comment to your last question too?
Yes, please.
Because I want to jump on Mandeep started there, and is, I think, a challenge in omnichannel that I've experienced is, and everyone's kind of said it, is that in a digital world, and I don't mean e-commerce because a store has digital components, just thinking of all the data, that it's really breaking down, culturally getting the organization aligned on this type of strategy is super critical, because if you have store technology and e-commerce technology separate, or you have separate data and analytics, or you have separate teams that are serving, not serving in an omni-channel ethos, that can be a big challenge to bring that all into sort of one focus and one company strategic goal, versus if it's piecemeal or siloed, it just, in today's world, it just doesn't work as well as it could have maybe 10 years ago.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, when you're smaller, you have some ability to kind of piecemeal and silo things and still kind of duct tape them together. But when you start to get bigger, it's hard to scale, especially in peak times.
Yeah, technical debt can become a killer. And all of a sudden, it takes months and months to get something done instead of days. And you're right. It can, eventually when you scale, those hacks can be an anchor.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Well, my next question is, I want to specifically focus on buy online, pick up in store, and curbside. And I'll start with Mandeep on this one. Obviously these services are becoming part of customers' regular shopping routine. That's grown tremendously since the pandemic. How have your logistics and fulfillment strategies evolved to accommodate these two omni-channel services, for lack of a better word?
I think we already have done that, right? So I don't think that.
Well, what did you do with what have you done with your logistics and fulfillment to accommodate that? What did you have to do?
I mean, this may be surprising, but from the very beginning, even in the pre-COVID era, and now we live in the post-COVID era, the customer convenience, being a luxury brand, is in the fabric of making sure that we get the goods to the customer as fast as possible. So from a allocation perspective, we were always, quite frankly, looking at the demand and using advanced machine learning to understand where we should place the inventory and and also looking at which regions the demand is coming from. So that was kind of like the key part of it from the get-go. So we have used that to ensure that both to fulfill the customer demand in stores as well as online, as well as ship from store. That is some of the tech that we used, as well as making sure that the processes, and I was talking about the processes before, the labor and all of that, the policies and processes that go along with that there was support for that.
Got it. So part of it for you was, using AI and machine learning to make sure the inventory is in the right place. And then in addition to that, then make sure the team is kind of trained and able to execute on those BOPIS and curbside orders. Well, you guys do BOPIS, you don't do curbside as much.
We do BOPIS, yeah.
Oh, you do, yeah, okay,
BOPIS.
Perfect. BOPIS, yep, okay, great. Now, omnichannel is obviously, it's not just about driving customers in store, it's also about helping store customers find what they want, which is not always in the four walls of the store. How do you, and I'm going to start with you, Angela, on this one, how do you enable your store associates to access your broader online inventory when they're serving in-store customers?
So all of our store associates have visibility into real-time inventory, and it's really important given the fact that we are speaking to a very luxury customer who has high expectations. They need products for events or dinner parties and so forth. So it's important that we find a way to sort of provide that level of service when they're looking for it. So our store associates will look at the inventory availability in e-commerce and oftentimes make the arrangements for that transfer to occur. so that those items are shipped to that user. So I think it's really, again, it's more of a manual approach, but we've received, I think, a really positive response from our customers that were willing to go the extra mile. We've done the same things in terms of transferring inventory between our stores. When we had stores in both South and East Hampton, it went as far as associates driving the products from one store to another to make sure that the customer got what they were looking for when they needed it. So again, I think it's really about providing that high touch level of service. And I think that's critical to any luxury experience.
Mandeep, is there anything you would add to that with Tapestry? How do you essentially do endless aisles at Coach and at some of the other brands?
Yeah, I think, there are two examples that I gave for that, right? One is we have clienteling tools where, the customer can go and they can order anything in store. If they like something, they can, we can order, ship it to them from the store itself. We can get it to them from another store. And like the other example that I was giving, which is, you could be at home and like you can order an item which you liked in store, and we can do pay by link. So I think we employ all of those methodologies.
What you use? I'm sorry. What link?
It's pay by link. Like we just
send
them the link. Like you don't have to give your credit card number on phone if you don't feel comfortable. You can just click on link, pay online, and then the associate would get the payment, and then we can.
Got it. So the associate is interacting with the customer in that scenario and showing them what's in store, but then the link allows them to pay and then have the item sent to their home. Oh, very cool. That's interesting. Now, Deb, I have a question for you. How are you tailoring your omni-channel strategies to meet the expectations of your customer base? What are you doing for 511 customers?
Sure. So a really great question. And for us, it's, most importantly, it's ensuring that customer experience consistency, providing consistent brand experiences across online and store, all the different touch points, including product information or pricing, promotions, and also most importantly, customer service. Not only like if you call our 800 number, but the service that we deliver at our retail locations. We have 123 across the country. And it's really critical for our employees to be able to speak to the products and the features and the benefits, and give them that same experience that they would have online. And then looking for new and innovative ways like augmented reality or virtual reality to really bridge that online offline experience. And having that experience in the stores, it gives the customers something to do and something fun to interact with, and also gets the employees excited about our products and talking about them. And really, I think what it comes down to is addressing these challenges really requires a holistic approach that really involves investments in a lot of things like technology or process optimization, and for us, most importantly, is employee training. And a really deep understanding of our customers' behaviors and what they prefer and where they want to shop, and being there when and where they want to interact with us. And this is a real big focus for us at 511.
Awesome. When you say augmented reality, is it like seeing the products in an augmented reality way? Is it also like potentially the outdoor experience?
It could be all of the above. That's something that we're really looking into and investigating because of the types of products that we use, that we have, like a backpack. How is it going to look on your back? Like, if you're online, how is it going to fit on your back? Or what is this product going to look like when you're hiking or camping or something like that? So it's and also in store, if an employee is with another consumer, another customer, can you scan over a QR code on a tag and the features and benefits pop up, or a virtual assistant pops up and says, hey, let me tell you a little bit about how cool this bag is. There's so many really cool ways to interact. That's really exciting coming up.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Well, I want to talk about post-purchase. That's come up a few times in Jay's presentation, and also Mandeep mentioned it. I mean, obviously, especially in a luxury context, enhancing that post-purchase experience is crucial because we want to turn those first-time buyers into these lifelong brand advocates. Talk about your post-purchase. Mandeep, I'm going to start with you. Talk about your post-purchase strategies and how returns play into that equation for Tapestry.
Yeah, I think, post-purchase experience is very important. Like, I think if I remember some stats, I don't know where they are from, but like 33%, if you have a bad experience, even once with the, customers, 33% of the customers will become one and done customers. So it's extremely important to make sure that you have a great returns experience. So when we started, I would go 2-3 years ago. You could always go back and return in stores, but if you wanted to return online, we would also ship you a return form, which you would have to manually fill. Now, how many of us to actually even remember where the box goes and where the form is? Unless you are one of those like very prudent ones who is going to ship it back immediately, that box and that form is gone, right? And then the other option that we had was you could either call the customer service or you could download a PDF, and that was a very manual, experience, friction, a lot of friction in there. So what we did was we implemented online returns, automated online returns, self-service online returns, where you could just go. You would have your order that, based on your order number, put the return reason, and then just print the label. And not just print the label, but you could just even get a QR code now. You don't even have to print the label and just ship it. So that's what we did with the returns.
And they can ship it, but they can also bring it back in the store.
Yeah, they can do both. They can do both. So that was always an option that you could go back to the stores. But I think for us, it's about customer convenience. And quite frankly, like if they go to stores, it's actually much better for us, because we noticed that they can actually buy something else, and generally there are people who can help them. It's about that helping the customer, but for us it's about omnichannel and convenience, like wherever you want it, however you want it, and so that's how we ended up implementing it.
Awesome. Angela, anything you want to add there? Anything that you guys do with post-purchase that's important or different?
Yeah, I mean, I think similarly, we did launch self-service returns this year, which I think there's been a lot of positive feedback about. But we do have products coming from dropship vendors and so forth. So there are certain products that are excluded from that offering. But I think streamlining that return experience has been actually more beneficial to actually reduce the return rate and then also improve the conversion rate on our site. We're obviously not there yet in terms of return in store, but if a customer comes in and they request to return an item in store, we do not turn them away, of course. So I think that's really critical. And then I think just communication and transparency has been so critical to maintaining and sustaining our customer relationships. So going back to the need for us to transfer inventory, and sometimes there may be delays or it's shipping from store that's further from the customer. We make sure that we're always communicating to our customer that, it's delayed, but it's on its way. I think a little communication goes a long way and in maintaining that customer relationship and building loyalty.
Awesome. It's amazing how quickly time flies. I have two more questions. The next one is for Deb. We've talked about the importance of surfacing inventory, and you actually talked about that as part of what you do at 511. How do you surface inventory on your e-commerce site, and how do you do that how does that help in terms of improvement of abandonment rates and increased consumer confidence in making the purchase?
Yeah, like we mentioned, we talked about this a little bit before, but because we offer, ship from store, omnichannel inventory availability is critical to increasing things like conversion, units per transaction, average order value. and a cart abandonment as well. But if the inventory is not available, they can't put it in the cart. But we want to make sure that they can get what they want where they want it. And like I was mentioning before too, the notify me is really, if the product is out of stock, is really critical, because that actually gets you the opportunity to get customer data. Maybe it was a customer that was brand new to the brand and they were searching and they couldn't find what they wanted. Notify me, boom, you get their email right away. And so it's a really great email acquisition tool as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it makes sense, right? And it's like they already came, they want the product. Why let them bounce and not even get any information? Why not just help them and provide a service? Awesome. And then I guess for the final question, I want to talk about what you're doing with data, because obviously with omnichannel customers, you have a lot of data. You have their online purchases, you have their in-store purchases, and that starts to give you a much more robust picture about the customer. How do you use that data to personalize, to one, kind of deliver that cohesive experience, and then how do you personalize marketing and e-commerce based on that data? And also, Mandeep, do you mind if I start with you on this one?
Yeah, I think something should be left secret. Some of it is our secret sauce, so I'm not going to talk
Whatever you can share.
about that. But yeah, I mean, I think I'll answer it in this way, right? At the end of the day, for all of us, it's about, and for today, customers reward the brands where you put them first. It's about customer centricity, and that is what it's all about for us. So, taking that into account and saying, what is their preferred channel? How can we help them best anywhere and everywhere? I think that's what all of us aim for. And I think I speak for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Angela, when we talked yesterday, you had some specific things that you guys do at AERIN with the data that you collect.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, because several of our locations are very seasonal, so it's really about how you can continue that journey in other channels in that off season. So leveraging that data to build out communication to the customers to continue that journey online, understanding their purchase behavior, and then marketing similar products to complete the look and so forth. And then also on the flip side, understanding when our customers are coming back to those markets and leveraging that data, looking at the purchase behavior during those in-season moments, and then building out segmentation for prospecting and retargeting in Meta and so forth.
Awesome. Very helpful. I'm going to quickly squeeze in one audience question. I apologize. I know there's been a few that we haven't been able to answer, but Bill Craig asked, has anyone created virtual experience, virtual tour of a store, metaverse, space computing, Google Immersive View, NERF, or metaverse to engage customers? And I'm going to direct this to Jay.
Yeah, we actually, in my past, we have dabbled with some of the virtual store experience. For most of that, I have not, and again, I have limited experience. I don't want to, be negative to anybody that's had success here, but I have not seen financial success of this in a boutique retail world at scale.
Makes sense. It's early.
Doesn't mean it's not going to be there, but yet.
Awesome. Well, I want to just say thank you to all of you, Mandeep, Deb, Angela, Jay. Thank you for joining us, for sharing your insights. This whole process of getting great with omnichannel is really a journey, and I think sharing what you've gone through has been really helpful for the audience. We will be back on March 27th with our webinar on leveling up personalization in 2024. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks again for joining.